Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of this beautiful country that you're in. You are watching Rebel Roundup. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn, and it is Thursday, so I am joined by my co-host in Coburg, Ontario, Tamara Ugolini. Tamara, how's it going?
Hey Sheila, pretty good. Feeling a little bit rusty, I will be honest,
Mm.
after our Christmas, holidays, New Year's. Hope that everyone had a great and festive season. But it's nice to be back. How are you doing over there on the West Coast?
Well, I'm not on the West Coast. I'm east of the Rockies, but west of the rest, as they say. I'm doing great because last night Trump did some wonderful things, or the Trump
Crazy.
administration did some wonderful things. We'll talk about them. Um, it's I feel like I maybe I'm sleeping too much or something because and I don't sleep hardly at all, but every time I wake up in the morning I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what did the Trump administration get up to while I was sleeping?" Oh, they pulled out of the UN climate scheme and then flipped the food pyramid on its head, which as I was saying before the cameras started to roll, I feel so vindicated. And I'll tell a little backstory about how there's a strong Alberta connection to what happened, and I just couldn't be more pleased. And we'll talk about that. We've got the press release from the White House. We'll talk about Freeland caving to public pressure. Public pressure does work because she went from uh,
Mhm.
I'm going to resign in the coming weeks to, oh, the day after tomorrow's fine, then I guess. So we'll talk about that. We'll take a victory lap around that, but I'll tell everybody how they can get involved in the show and how they can support the work that we do out of the goodness of their heart, because we'll never take a penny from any level of government to do the important work that we do around here to hold governments to account for the horrible things that they do to the people with the money that the people give them. So if you are watching us on Rumble, you can support our work by leaving a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, it's obligatory that we read it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our best to get to it, time permitting. Then if you're watching us on YouTube, YouTube's paid chat is called a super chat. So again, the same rules apply. But if you miss the live version of the show, but you still want to support our work, you can leave a paid comment called a super thanks. And as I said, we rely on your support because we don't take any money from the government to do what we do around here. Now let's talk about this very, very exciting thing. I could not be more
Yeah,
pleased. This is
the
such
food
an
pyramid.
this is such an important thing to human health. People have been told for approaching 50 years that they need to juice themselves up on refined carbohydrates. Kellogg's, I'm looking at you and your terrible influence on the food pyramid. Coke also has a strong influence on the food pyramid, but they do it under the name Dasani. But it has been top heavy on refined carbohydrates, which, as we know, has been driving obesity, heart disease, and other lifestyle related illnesses for a long time. And finally, we're returning to the old, proper human way of eating, which is animal protein heavy. If you see at the top there, it's broccoli, so your low carbohydrate vegetables, uh, your saturated fats, which is very exciting for me. You've got butter, you've got eggs, you've got fish. Dairy is high up there. Olive oil is high up there. Again, lettuce, squash, avocados. Fruit is where it properly belongs, somewhere underneath berries. Way at the bottom, you have cereals. I even think bananas and peanuts are a little bit too high. Bananas are just starch and sugar. And peanuts, you've been told that those are a good source of protein. They definitely are not. That's just clever marketing. But yeah, red meat, animal proteins, animal fats, way up at the top. Bring back the saturated fats. I could not be more excited about this. We've seen just a rise in lifestyle related illnesses. We've told an entire generation of women not to eat saturated fats, and then their skin gets thin, and then they go off and do all kinds of things to their face because they're not eating enough animal collagen, which is bioavailable. This is not a health show, but before they were playing games with COVID science, they were and the pharmaceutical companies were involved in the COVID science and telling you needed to do these things. The food guidelines were manipulated by the food companies, and once they brought in the food pyramid, everybody got sicker. And to honestly, to their credit, people were following the bad advice of their doctors. They were eating more whole grains and doing all those things and still getting sicker. And what did your doctor say to you? Well, here's some insulin and here's some Ozempic. And I feel like after today, Novo Nordisk is going to be hardest hit because we are returning to the way that humans are supposed to eat. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, it's a return to evidence base as
Mhm.
RFK Jr. is at the helm of Health and Human Services in the US. And we have seen complete MAHA movement overhauls the last few days, make America healthy again. I mean, Trump campaigned on this, and it looks like 2026 is the year that they're making sure that these changes and revamps happen. I mean, I love this 15-second clip from Secretary Kennedy of HHS where he says, literally, just eat real food. Like we're
Right. Don't
done
take it out of a
with
package.
these, yeah, we're done with these highly processed foods. We're done with these refined carbs that are making everybody obese, giving them diabetes, and making chronic conditions proliferate in the United States and arguably not far off here in Canada as well. And so they've revamped the food guide to do it. I mean, take it from him here.
As Secretary of Health and Human Services, my message is clear: eat real food. Nothing matters more for healthcare outcomes, economic productivity, military readiness, and fiscal stability. As Secretary of Health,
Military readiness,
Yeah.
right? Even these obesity and dietary choices that have contributed to all these chronic underlying conditions that Americans are increasingly suffering from. I wanted to throw to, so I did an art, I just did a quick write up on this yesterday when this was first announced. And um, one of the White House's press releases during this release stated poor diet is a root cause of obesity, which creates high levels of medical spending, estimated to be nearly 400 billion per year. So yeah, if we can just switch out the processed junk for real food and cut into that $400 billion a year on healthcare spending, that just makes logical sense. I don't know who could come at Secretary Kennedy and say, "What? You're telling people just eat real food? How dare you?" But of course they will, and they have so far already. But it seems very reasonable and rational to me. So I guess that to the left, who's melting down, who wants to eat their Fruit Loops and Cheerios, they're obviously going to fling back this typical like anti-science far right rhetoric on the Trump admin. But I am here for it. They've cut and slashed. I know it wasn't on the schedule, but they slashed the childhood vaccine
Yep.
recommendations the day prior. I mean, these are massive changes that they're implementing. And then here in Canada, we have our health minister, Marjorie Michelle, saying, oh, well, I guess we can no longer look to the CDC as this beacon of evidence-based advice. And meanwhile, the CDC and the likes of HHS and the AG, who's just revamped the food pyramid guidelines, are sharing all the evidence. They're like,
The,
hey,
the
we're going to be
evidence has been
transparent.
the evidence has been there for a long time, but they just were too invested in uh, subsidizing certain sectors of the agriculture industry. Corn, I'm looking at you. And they were being heavily influenced by large food companies, Nabisco,
Yep.
Kellogg's, Coca-Cola. And if you look, and it infected everything. Somebody very close to me had a heart attack 2 years ago. And I looked at the information about like following a proper heart healthy diet that came home. And it was just nonsense, just absolute nonsense. And then I was like, who's behind this? Oh, the American Heart Foundation. Then you look, then you just go and see who's funding the American Heart Foundation. Well, it's Coca-Cola by way of Dasani. And it has infected everything. Everybody's gotten sicker, and the solution has been medicine and not telling people, hey, your doctor's been giving you bad advice. And I'm not hanging this squarely around the necks of the doctors. Most doctors are not educated on nutrition. I think they have like 40 hours of nutritional training. And a lot of that is old nutritional training that was heavily influenced by lobby groups. And like there's been a lot of reality coming out of this. Like Nina Teichholz, she wrote the book Big Fat Surprise. She was a journalist, now she's a PhD. And she notes in some of like in this, and this is not a judgment on people who choose to eat this way. I choose to eat a different way. I don't want certain diets banned. I don't even want junk food banned. Okay, so don't take this as you know, me coming at you if you choose to be vegan or vegetarian. But it is true, and you need to know it. If you're a vegan or if you're a vegetarian for moral reasons because you don't want to eat animals, I get it. But I love eating things with a face. But one of the key parts of the new U.S. dietary guidelines is warning the public about the very real nutrient deficiencies that come with vegetarian and especially vegan diets. And it is absolutely true that if you eat a vegan diet, you should absolutely be supplementing with certain nutrients that are only available from animals. DHA is one of them. People on these diets don't realize, because authorities never told them, that they're risking their health eating this way. And so it says, pay careful attention to potential nutrient gaps when consuming a vegetarian or vegan diet. Vegetarian diets often fall short in vitamins D and E, choline, and iron, whereas vegan diets show broader shortfalls in vitamins A, D, E, B6, and B12, riboflavin, niacin, choline, calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, zinc, and protein. Now, they're not telling you don't eat this diet. They're telling you if you are eating this way, because this is a free country, you need to be aware that you need to be monitoring your nutrient levels if you are consuming those diets. And again, I understand if you're doing it for moral reasons, I get it. If you're doing it for the animals, that's whatever. But you need to be aware that regardless of what the old dietary guidelines showed you, if you want to be healthy, please be supplementing. And I'm so glad that the administration is making that clear.
And really just shaking things up. And finally,
suck it. But also, can just stop for a second. Suck it, UN. You've been pushing these non-healthy diets on people for climate change for the longest time, but you've been making a generation of people sicker, and shame on you. Okay, I'll be quiet now. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just here to see the common sense, the scientific integrity coming back into healthcare and health advice coming out of federal agencies. And also last night, big news. I say crazy because I just can't believe that this is happening, and I'm so here for it. But last night, Trump also announced that the U.S. is leaving 66 anti-American, useless or wasteful international organizations. This comes from Secretary Rubio.
Secretary of everything. Secretary of absolutely everything. It says, yeah, the withdrawal from wasteful, ineffective, or harmful international organizations was the press release. And the list is quite something else. A lot of censorship stuff they pulled out of. Global Forum on Migration and Development, International Energy Forum, International Renewable Energy Agency, International Solar Alliance, International Union for Conservation and Nature. I just love all of this. There's if you go to the bottom, they pulled out of the UNFCCC. That's the UN Framework on Climate Change. And that means that the Green Scheme, the UN's participation in that was really the cornerstone, the thing that was holding it all up. And they've just pulled out of that. And this is a great day for human advancement, I really believe.
Yeah, I see that they've pulled out of some of the gender equality nonsense.
Yep.
There was one on cotton. What was like just stuff? The International Cotton Advisory Committee. I mean, what are these things?
The UN Energy, UN Democracy Fund, the UN Entity for Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Women. If you are in a UN that includes the likes of Saudi Arabia, what are you even doing? Like, are women driving there yet? Are they voting? They can't marry somebody unless they have male approval from somebody else in their family. So, I mean, a lot of this is just hypocritical garbage and US aid money laundering schemes where the money just ends up in the hands of your local warlord or the local Brookfield slash BlackRock types. And I'm just here for it. I love seeing it. Every day we wake up that Trump's in power, it's a new day. Like something happened and it's changed for the good.
I'm here for it. And also, I'm sad that I'm actually physically here in Canada for it,
Right.
because repeatedly it's just showing how Canada is stagnating and being left in the dark ages when it comes to these progressive actions that the Trump administration is repeatedly taking. Um, what's today? What's going to happen today? What more will today bring? I mean, they've taken these massive steps just in the last 2 to 3 days. I'm here to see, and not to mention all the other things happening in the other nations, not only what they're doing right there at home in the United States. So things are moving quickly, and I am here for it.
Yeah, and you know what? When you only have, 3 years left in your administration, Trump can't run again. You can't have a hidden agenda because you don't have that kind of time. And if you want to leave enough runway for the next Republican candidate for president, I don't know who that's going to be. Rubio Vance, maybe. Um, if you want to leave them enough room to sell the people on the Republican agenda, you have to show them that when we made these huge changes, not only did the sky not fall, did we not get embroiled in a forever war, and people got happier, healthier, and wealthier. It may it makes it real easy for the next candidate to sell that they were part of that administration that did that for you. And why change? Why try a Democrat when we were able to make these huge sweeping changes and things got better, not worse?
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, maybe we can go into what's happening here in Canada with Chrystia Freeland, former finance minister, who I'm sure that you and Lise chatted about this yesterday on the live stream. But basically, and I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I'm sorry if it sounds, I don't know if it sounds strange on your end, but
No.
anyway, I'm trying a new setup and it's a little bit distracting what's happening in my ear. But okay. Anyway, Freeland has now resigned or stepped down within days. Before, it was like some undetermined number of weeks after taking this position, with President Zelensky as his new economic advisor for Ukraine. And she's been enmeshed with her motherland, arguably for forever, but certainly for at least the last 10 years. And as it turns out, throughout her tenure as a sitting MP, as a member of cabinet, as our finance minister, deputy prime minister, special envoy to Ukraine, an appointment she received under Mark Carney and then stepped down from in the fall. And now she's posting, after massive public backlash, that this was a major conflict, glaring conflict of interest, to be both a paid sitting MP in Canadian Parliament, paid for by our hard-earned tax dollars, and due for a raise, I might add, in April of this year, that they automatically get no matter how they behave or destroy the country in their midst. But she has now updated everyone when there was massive backlash about this appointment, and says that she'll be leaving her position as of tomorrow, Friday, January 9th. And previously, I think just the day before, she had taken to X, or social media, to post that she will be leaving in the coming weeks. So that's just basically an undetermined amount of time. And thanks to, I think, our campaign
Yeah.
and the public's backlash on this, she's now been forced to leave her seat way in advance of what she initially and publicly stated. But this should have never happened. And why is Chrystia Freeland not being held to the same standard as they're supposed to be held to under the Conflict of Interest Act, where there's a mandated 2-year cooling off period from the time that you are a sitting member of parliament paid for by the Canadian taxpayer and you take a foreign appointment, whether it's voluntary, unpaid, or otherwise.
Right.
It's not supposed to be allowed.
Right. Maybe we can bring up Ezra's pinned tweet on this, because the timeline is an abomination of what happened here. It's so deeply unethical, but it should not surprise any of us because, I mean, Justin Trudeau, how many ethics violations did he have? They were giving the ethics reports Roman numerals to keep track of them all. And so, of course, Freeland thinks she can get away with this, and she thinks that she can get around these ethics rules because, oh, it's an unpaid gig with the Ukrainians. I don't care. I actually don't care if you're making money or not. That's not what this is about. I mean, it would be worse, but it still doesn't save you from having your weird, sneaky dual loyalty stuff. Do we have Ezra's pinned tweet? Olivia? Okay. Maybe not. Oh, yeah, there it is.
Oh.
Zelensky hired her on December 22nd. Okay, 22nd. She disclosed that to Carney on Christmas Eve. The two of them decided to keep it a secret because they gave $2.5 billion to Ukraine on December 27th. What was her involvement in that December 27th decision? Well, we know she had at least some involvement because she was the advisory whatever to Ukraine until she resigned that position just like 2 days ago when she took the job publicly with Zelensky.
And it wasn't until public backlash
Right.
and media requests started pouring in. When I first called the ethics commissioner's office to inquire about this appointment and whether or not it was a conflict of interest, they were the ones that acknowledged to me that it was a hot story and they're trying to get together their talking points, basically, is what they said in that initial call, that they're trying to get together their talking points because other journalists have been reaching out with the same question. And so that kind of fermented in the background for at least 4 hours from the time I called and first made that request to the time that Freeland posted to social media that the role is voluntary and unpaid, because I specifically asked, and I have that recording for anybody who doubts what I say. I specifically asked, I'm wondering if this is a paid position and how this conflicts with her paid position as a member of parliament. And I don't know if any other media were asking that question specifically, but it was about 4 hours before anyone at the ethics commissioner's office got back to me, despite telling me that they were going to call me back within 2 hours. Or even sooner, because they had received, as I mentioned, other media requests. And then as that time passed, Freeland quickly took to social media, posted it was a voluntary unpaid position that she'd be leaving within a couple weeks, and she was stepping down from her envoy of reconstruction of Ukraine position. And then everyone started piling on to anyone questioning, well, look, no, she's resigned. Look, it's an unpaid voluntary position. And none of that was publicly announced or available when the questions first started rolling in. So it wasn't until that social media lit up, that backlash ensued, that they scrambled to get the story straight. And I would say that it's not really straight even as it stands now. But regardless, it shows that the public pressure works. And I can't confirm. I'll have an updated report because I did reach back out to the ethics commissioner on this and with some more generic questions, because of course they hide behind confidentiality and shield themselves by sourcing case by case bases stuff. So I tried to keep things as ambiguously worded as I could. And I'll have a full update on that, but they're mum on whether or not they will be launching an investigation, which just shows to Canadians, what is the ethics commissioner doing? What is the integrity? What do integrity and ethics mean to this government? Nothing, because you can just have these dual loyalties and get away with siphoning billions of taxpayer dollars, right? As she was our finance minister when all of these billions were approved to Ukraine. And now all of a sudden she gets to ride off into the sunset as Canada's economy falters. as an economic advisor to Zelensky. And then, who's to say thereafter, this is all now out of Canada's hands, she won't become a paid who knows what within the Ukrainian government. It smells absolutely, it reeks of corruption.
I have watched our ethics commissioner, Conrad von Finkenstein, testify dozens of times in the House of Commons. And every time I watch, I'm like, I'm not sure what it is exactly he does around here. Because they'll be asking him about blatant ethics violations from these Liberal MPs, like, Randy Boissonneau in Edmonton, who was running a PPE business with his partner, very strange man, his partner, while voting on PPE requirements in the House of Commons. And Conrad van Finkenstein would say, well, what do you want me to do? Open an investigation? Yeah. Yes, exactly that. What is it that you do around here? He's like, well, we didn't have any complaints. Well, now you have one. Now you know. Go. Do the thing that you exist to do. I can't even imagine what we pay this guy to say. What do you want me to do? Investigate? You're the commissioner. Yes, exactly. We have Mark Carney remarking on this. They got him as on an in and out, as they call it, in the House of Commons.
Did you ask her not to quit because of the minority parliament situation right now?
No,
Good question.
absolutely not. First off, let me.
I should say, as a member of parliament.
Let me. No. Just to be clear. Ms. Freeland, Krista has served our country for well over a decade in a formal role as a parliamentarian, certainly in a number of ministerial posts, and served with great distinction. She was. I had her as my special envoy after she left cabinet for the Ukraine reconstruction. Judgment became her judgment that she could be more useful for that process as she was leaving, as she was retiring as a parliamentarian, as a direct advisor. My judgment was that taking that role would be consistent with resigning as an MP, and I welcomed her doing that, and I'm pleased that for Ukraine, and again, if I can reemphasize and bring it back to today, there is real momentum. Nothing's assured, but there's real momentum in this peace process, and the security guarantees are incredibly important, but as is the reconstruction and the prosperity plan, and she'll be there to work on that. And look, we'll have a by-election. There'll be a few by-elections coming up, and we'll run great candidates, and the people in those ridings will decide who they want to send to Parliament.
He said something really interesting there, that as she leaves cabinet, this position as his special envoy for Ukraine's construction was a great way for her to leave her position. Sounds to me like it was a great way for Chrystia Freeland to tie up any loose ends as she transitioned into this position. And Mark Carney's pleased for Ukraine. Well, I'm pretty sure that you're supposed to be pleased for Canada. This is crazy.
Well, and also her position as the special envoy for blah, 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 was just a way for her to continue to take her cabinet minister's salary top up while not sitting in cabinet, right? Like that, it was like a special job created just for her so that she could keep her salary top up while not sitting in cabinet, because she refused to deliver the fall fiscal update. Was it the fall fiscal update? Doesn't matter. The fiscal update anyway, that she was responsible for because it was too bad, too terrible. And instead of just owning up to her mistakes, she quit instead. So
that fall fiscal update that came 7 months later
Right.
in the spring,
Right.
when after she also, like, you had 7 months to try to save face, and then she couldn't even do that. Yeah. So, and to make sure that Ukraine got that, what was it, $2.7 billion more on December 27th, just wringing that $1 billion taxpayer towel out, just squeezing every last little bit of it before she heads on to advise their economy.
Oh, God.
Well, they put, like, Chrystia Freeland was at the helm of our financial management when now that we are in record deficit to the tune of whatever, I don't even remember what it is now. How many trillions of dollars did the Liberals indebt us with under
Right.
the workmanship and the brilliance, as Zelensky puts it, of Chrystia Freeland?
They admit in this press release they've given Ukraine $22 billion worth of money and other things. But I mean, even just having somebody like her at the helm of the like our special envoy for reconstruction of Ukraine, what did they build here? What have they ever built here? She's going to go over there and build something? We can't build a single thing here. We're not at war, although it feels like we're at war with our government sometimes, but we're not at war. But we can't even get a pipeline built, houses built, infrastructure built, nothing. We can't get anything built here. She was the whisper in Mark Carney's ear about how we're going to build a fully functioning society post-war in Ukraine. Give me a break. What a joke. Best of luck, Ukraine.
People are dying in the hallways of our hospitals because they can't get timely access to a doctor in our publicly funded system that's supposed to be the be-all, end-all of socialized healthcare. But we have billions to send to Ukraine to reconstruct them. It's just abysmal what this government has done and continues to do, and the personal gains and rewards that these MPs see as a result.
Yeah. Hey, let's hit an ad break and we'll come back on the other side, and we have a message from our friends at the Wellness Company. I forgot the one thing I wanted to say about the dietary announcement from the United States. One of the doctors and researchers who's really been pushing hard on this stuff, Ben Bickman, if you are in the carnivore space the way I am, you will know him from the internet. You'll know him from his YouTube channel and appearances on all kinds of places. I think he was on Rogan. But he really is the guy who looked at the effect of the standard American diet, which is bad, that it has on our hormones and our hormonal health. Ben Bickman, born and raised in Alberta, he's a researcher at BYU, and his dad is a former Wild Rose MLA. So he's the pride of Alberta, and he strongly influenced the movement to flip the food pyramid on its head. There's Dr. Ben Bickman. Anyways, he's one of ours, so I'm proud. I'm proud. I'm
to Canada next.
Yeah, well, he's back.
Save Canada.
Yeah, his dad Gary was a Wild Rose MLA sitting in the Alberta legislature not all that long ago. So, anyways, that's the Alberta influence on MAGA. Let's hit an ad break and we'll come back on the other side.
You like the hat? Me too. Same strong message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a Liberal, go to mcgahats.ca today.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us. Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
All right,
okay, we're back.
I will read this quick script here from the Wellness Company on the ultimate spike detox and their Korean research. What if those who were once called conspiracy theorists turned out to be right again? A new study by Korean doctors claimed that COVID vaccines raise the risk of 6 cancers, including lung, breast, and prostate. Researchers analyzed health records from more than 8.4 million adults between 2021 and 2023, and their findings were published in Biomarker Research, a respected scientific journal. Critics dismiss it, but the data raises concern that spike protein exposure may be tied to long-term health risks. Dr. Peter McCullough has been aware of this since 2020, which is why he collaborated with the wellness company to create Ultimate Spike Detox, designed to help your body clear spike proteins, reduce inflammation, and support heart health. With natural ingredients like nattokinase, dandelion root, and bromelain, it is your daily proactive defense from a man-made virus. Don't wait until symptoms strike or something unexpected happens. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. McCullough, one of the top doctors who risked it all. Head to twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off plus free shipping. That's twc.health/rebel. Use code REBEL to get 10% off and get back to that pre-COVID feeling.
All right. We've got a clip here from Mark Miller. God, that guy just keeps failing sideways. And he's making this announcement for Black History Month. And it's a $200 million fund for Black-led organizations. Let's listen. This feels like racism, but let's hear it.
But we've advanced 2 national anti-racism strategies to combat anti-Black racism. We're establishing a $200 million endowment fund to provide sustainable funding for Black-led, Black-focused, and Black-serving organizations. This is what diversity, equity, and inclusion looks like. This is the power of a strong Canada, because when one community thrives, we as a country and as a people thrive. It's in this spirit that I'm proud to unveil the theme of this year's Black History Month, 30 years of Black History Month, honoring Black brilliance across generations, from nation builders to tomorrow's visionaries.
He said, this is what diversity, equity, and inclusion looks like. This is what segregation looks like. This is segregation. I thought we didn't do this stuff anymore. Like, if we said, like, I always play reverse the race, reverse the religion, see if you could get away with it if you said it that way. If they were giving a $200 million endowment fund to white-led, white-focused organizations to provide sustainable funding, you think they could get away with that? People would lose their minds. But this is fine. It's the problem with both of those proposals is that they're segregationist and race-based, and that's not what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, and this is what DEI looks like. It's just endless funding. It's just pouring out the taxpayer coffers. Here, just take it, take it, take it. But he said something else interesting there that I caught, Black serving initiatives. So this can go to any which person that the Liberals deem, well, as long as you're proving that you're serving a Black community, or I mean, I guess we should look further into that. But that seems like a pretty easy way to just line the pockets of your Liberal insider pals who claim to be doing this service work and get some of that taxpayer gravy train.
Yeah, this feels like the Green Slush Fund, but DEI instead of climate. Honestly, and it's about the same amount of money. Like, that's a hell of a lot of money, $200 million?
Right. Yeah, these aren't just little, 10,000 here, 10,000 there. I mean, that stuff adds up too. But, and is this $200,000 this year, next year, for the next 5 years? There will be more to come, I'm sure, on that one. And I guess the Liberals and their insider friends who can cash in on this have 3 weeks to figure it out, because Black History Month starts February 1st, I think.
Is it February 1st?
I
was hoping we were halfway through it.
And then we're right into Pride season.
Oh God, it never ends. And the Americans, the Americans are pulling out of all of these DEI initiatives. You know, the announcement from Rubio, it's like we're not participating in any of this stuff anymore. It's so divisive to just silo people and funding away from each other based on race and sex and gender. It's dividing people up into these weird little columns and then deciding who is more oppressed than the other one, and then handing them money based on that, money and opportunities based on your place on the oppression totem pole. This is not how a society moves forward. It just isn't.
No, DEI is based on division and exclusion.
Right.
And we'll have to come up for something clever for the I, but we can get to this Western Standard piece here, where there's a group who is discussing sabotaging Alberta's independence petition. It's called the Forever Canadian Group. And, they claim to be a pro-Canada group, and they're trying to sabotage this referendum.
Yeah, they are. And they're being sneaky. So this is an offshoot of Thomas Lukaszuk, inadvertent separatist leader Thomas Lukaszuk's group, Forever Canada. That's the petition to stay in Canada, but it accidentally triggered a separatist referendum. We're going to build a bronze statue of that guy in the new capital of Lloydminster, and it'll forever be known as pulling a Lukaszuk every time you inadvertently do something stupid to help the people you are enemies of. And he is one of those, like, I believe in Canada, and when you ask them why, it's just simple nostalgia and not any real reason. But these are people from his group who are saying that they're going to interfere with the petition led by the Alberta Prosperity Project. And while I'm talking about this, can we maybe, Olivia, if you check on their X account, you can see the kinds of crowds that are coming out for these town halls in small towns. Like Water Valley is a small town in Alberta, it's about 250 people. They had more people than are in town show up to the Alberta Prosperity Project town hall. So that's the momentum for separatism in Alberta. But this group said that they're going to sign up as canvassers with the APP to collect signatures and then not go do it. So waste the resources and basically sit on a neighborhood. So the APP wouldn't send a canvasser into a neighborhood where they've already got a canvasser signed up. So they would just, make sure that those people in that neighborhood are never exposed to somebody knocking on their door to collect signatures. Now, I think the APP is not going to have a problem collecting signatures, but this is just sneaky sabotaging nonsense. But it is absolutely the kind of thing that you expect from the left, that they would rob Albertans of a right to have their voice heard. Whatever that voice whatever the decision is, we are entitled to have our say.
It's literally part of our democracy. These are protections built in to ensure fairness in democratic function. And so naturally the left, who's all about like upholding democracy in places like Ukraine, which they call the beacon of democracy. Meanwhile, Ukraine hasn't had elections. Zelensky's banned opposition parties. He's banned Catholic churches. He's banned independent media. And there was one more hit that he has taken on democracy that eludes me at this time. But these are the people that like to claim, oh, we have to support Ukraine because it's a beacon of democracy, and then take steps here domestically to interfere with democratic processes. I don't know. I mean, the Foreign Interference Commission didn't do anything about foreign interference, so I highly doubt they would do anything about domestic interference, but it's there.
For me, I take this with like a little bit of happy spite. Regular viewers will know that I'm a woman who operates some days just completely on spite. Sometimes it's the only thing that gets me through the day, is that my enemies don't want me to. And this is a pretty blatant admission that these guys know that they can't win unless they cheat, that they can't stop Albertans unless they cheat. And that makes me real confident. And so thanks, losers. Thanks, losers. I feel better. Thank you.
And also, as they say, no press is bad press. So them putting this out there and trying to rally their troops
Oh,
behind
for
this
sure.
initiative is probably just aiding the cause further.
Yeah. Let's, speaking of cheating to stop people's voices from being heard, let's go to my MP. Full disclosure, Garnet is my MP. We go to the same church. Garnet says, Garnet Genis, Conservative MP, he said he has disappointing news to share about further attacks on free speech. My event at York University, scheduled for Friday, is now canceled due to a decision of the student union not to allow it. I'm pretty surprised. Are you, Garnet? Are you? We've done the same event concept at universities in 4 provinces without incident. Oh, York is bad, though. I stand in a public area in front of a banner and talk to students as they walk by about jobs and unemployment, but the student union at York won't allow it. York students who want to talk about jobs and unemployment should please contact my office. I still want to hear your stories. Garnet, why aren't you going anyway? Why aren't you finding a way to go? Why don't you have the York Conservatives invite you there? Why are you just like, well, they don't want me, so I guess I can't come? That's not how this works. You're a sitting MP. And like, I'm frustrated by this. Yes, they should be allowing him to speak. Anyways, he says, one further point of precision, the decision not to allow the event was made by the York University Student Center that apparently controls the relevant access points. This is a body notionally controlled by students, not the administration, but technically distinct from the York Federation of Students. Okay, find a way, Garnet. Find a way. Because if a sitting MP can't come on the campus to speak about pretty like, I think it's apolitical, but does have a political cause and a political solution, youth unemployment. If you are too scared to find a way to get on that campus and speak to students about issues affecting them, how do you think the conservative students feel there? Garnet should be braver than the students at the Conservative Student Association at York. That's because he has more power and influence than them. That's just how it works. Find a way, Garnet. This is very disappointing that you're just like, whoa. Maybe something's happening in the background that I don't know about. I'm just relying on X posts, but very frustrating to see just to go on X and complain about disappointment. Try something else, please.
I'm trying to find it. Oh, here it is. He does say that in this particular case, he had been working with a group of local students to facilitate the event, and he doesn't want to go forward basically with the event so that he doesn't create a situation that these students helping organize it would face indirect consequences. And that really shows you and tells you the culture and the environment that exists at universities right now, especially in Ontario.
And it doesn't change till you fight it. You have to fight that culture, or it doesn't change. People have to be brave here.
Right. And I would say that the same holds true in high schools and elementary schools, where if these students speak up against the prevailing narrative or against something that they're being taught in the classroom, parents have to be, and, you know, Garnet as I think a parent, but also obviously as an MP, have to be aware that their children could face the repercussions of simply speaking their mind and challenging authority, even if it's in a respectful, very meaningful way. And that is the sad state of affairs that we have in our education system in Canada, but especially here in Ontario, where you risk facing educational consequences for simply veering from whatever the prevailing narrative may be. And not that is any part of what Garnet's going to do at York University. But I have heard from parents, and I've experienced it directly myself, that if children speak up and they challenge, they could be penalized for doing that. And so I do see that side of things where you don't want to inadvertently cause a student, especially in a post-secondary school education in university, to be penalized for something like this. And sadly, that's the state of affairs we have in Canada, where you do have to worry about stuff like that.
I just feel like it doesn't change unless somebody stands up and does something about it. And in fact, it only gets
Absolutely.
worse. But Garnet
And you
is,
have to be willing to
yeah,
take that personal sacrifice,
you
sadly.
have to. Yeah, somebody has to. And, like it was Tamara Leach, Chris Barber with the truckers. It was Chris Scott with the restaurants. It was Pastor James Coates and Pastor Phil Hutchins, who reopened their churches, and they served time in jail. But um, I mean, someone has to stand up. Like, you can't just go around saying somebody's got to do something. Well, what are you doing? Like, Tamara, there's you. You went to you were in handcuffs for walking on the beach. Somebody has to do something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And that was after months of, engaging in the political process and delegating at council meetings and petitioning. And so, yeah, when all of these things fall on deaf ears and the censorship prevails, then you have to engage in some form of civil disobedience to also shed additional light on, hey, look how unjust what is happening is, because otherwise it just falls into the depths of forgotten knowledge. And if everybody's silent and allows themselves to be censored, then that's what's going to continue.
Yeah, that's just how things are. And I think that's a terrible way to run a society. I just want to bring up this one post from M. Brandt 75.
Yeah.
Have you tried contacting the York Student Union Inclusion Officer yet?
There they are. She, her.
They always look the way you think they're gonna.
But this is the person in charge of ensuring inclusivity.
Right.
As a sitting MP is excluded from speaking at a Canadian university.
Right, about jobs. Like, it's not even that he's there talking. Like, I know Garnet, I don't think it's any secret that he's a social conservative. He's got a gaggle of kids. But he's not there talking about even like social issues. He's there talking about youth unemployment because it is a nightmare. And the kids there are being affected by it. This is something that you should be able to have a reasonable discussion about. And unfortunately, there will be no discussion allowed at our higher learning institutions. Hey, do we want to just do the cringe and then hit the chats? Because we're running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Although, just on the topic of non-binary stuff, I would like to throw to this Blacklocks article.
Please
just
do
quickly.
it. Let's do it. Yeah, we've got time.
So this comes from Statistics Canada, where they were discussing whether or not to add a non-binary gender category in their monthly jobless reports. But then they concluded, as I'm going to quote from Blacklocks, the population was too small for accurate data, said the Labor Department report, because less than 0.25%, so it's like 0.2% of Canadians, 0.02% of Canadians identify as transgender or non-binary, according to census figures. And there you go. Like, we're pandering to this population, throwing out thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for nonsense things like Health Canada's Science is a Drag event that I've done access to information disclosures on, Federal Service Pride Week. Yeah, because the federal government has its very own Pride Week, because June, Pride season, all these other things aren't enough. They have their own exclusive to government Pride Week in August of every year for a 0.24% of Canadians that identify as some form of transgender or non-binary. So,
well, and that number is actually dropping because more and more people are coming out of this madness. I think it was about 2.5 months ago, they did a study of like people who identified as non-binary and whatever that spectrum is, like a few years ago versus now, and the number is like falling right off. People are coming out of it. And so I think that number will even get even smaller and even smaller. I'm worried that the federal government was probably concerned that the unemployment numbers for those people, save for, you know, a few, would be largely 100% unemployed. So you wouldn't want to carve them out to see just the damage. Do you want to do chats or cringe or chats?
Yeah, maybe we should get through some of the chats and save the cringe for the very end. I'm trying to scroll up. Where did
I've
they
got them.
start
It's okay.
here?
Sasquatch Chronicles. There's money in Squatchin, as I said, because he's been very generous with us. $4.99 off topic, but the U.S. military have moved their assets just outside of Iran. Judgment Day is coming for Al Khamenei. IRGC members fleeing to Iraq. I think to Russia too. We have a clip we can show in a second that the U.S. has threatened the Iranian regime. If you touch a protester, we're going to strike you hard. Maybe we want to show that right now, real quick. Do we have it, Olivia? I see Efron posted it in another place. Anyways, I'll read the next chat while you find that.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, perfect. Let's just watch this real quick.
Mark Dubovitz, so this is a quote, if President Trump brings down the Islamic Republic of Iran, he will cement his place as the greatest foreign policy president since Ronald Reagan. I think it would actually...
I thought I already did that.
I was just about to add, with Midnight Hammer, you did that.
How much more can I do? You know, we just had Venezuela. We just had Midnight Hammer.
Yeah.
We settled 8 wars.
8 and a quarter.
But I'm willing to accept that. You
Yeah.
know, I'm willing to accept it.
What about Iran? Is the aim with Iran the collapse of that awful 47-year tyranny?
Well, I don't want to say it, but I will tell you they're not doing well. As you know, probably better than anybody. They're doing very poorly. And I have let them know that if they start killing people, which they tend to do during their riots, they have lots of riots, if they do it, we're going to hit them very hard.
Now, dozens have been killed. I know you don't do red lines, but have you communicated to them what that limit of your patience is?
Well, some have been killed by, you know, problems of crowd control and other things. We're watching it very closely. The crowds are so large, there's been a stampede. There's been 3 stampedes, and people have been killed in that, and I'm not sure I can necessarily hold somebody responsible for that. But they know, and they've been told very strongly, even more strongly than I'm speaking to you right now, that if they do that, they're going to have to pay hell.
Do you?
Yeah, and their internet was just cut too.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens in the coming hours and days.
Yep. We've got Apu Baker Al Puff Daddy 392 gives us $5, says Happy New Year, Tamara and Sheila. God bless you both, and God bless Rebel News for all the excellent journalism. May God shower your family with peace. Well, that's nice. Thank you.
Likewise.
Say Abu Baker Al Puff Daddy 392 also gives us $5 and says the recent Delta Force raid to arrest Maduro, Operation Midnight Hammer. What a great name. To arrest Maduro shows what U.S. military can do with serious, competent, professional leadership. No PC, no woke, no DEI. You know what? I said that on Monday. Like that's a fully capable, unleashed American military. What happened in Afghanistan would not have happened with Pete Hegseth running the show at all. Same poster, RCMP better not comment on the ICE shooting in Minnesota, given what the RCMP did to Robert Jansky and the peaceful truckers. The RCMP better be quiet. Yeah, I don't want to hear anything from them, and I don't think we will. I think they'll probably mind their business. P Schofield 10 gives us $5. Hey guys, all other things being equal, look for MAGA GOP to run Vance Rubio in 2028. I almost don't want Rubio to take another job though, because like Rubio's one job is like 40 people, and so if he becomes president or VP, who's the fixer? He's just so great. He's so good. So good. Same poster again. Sheila and Tamara, do you get messages from liberals and NDPers who are regretful for their past votes? Do you know leftists who change, or are they lost? You know, I did meet a few NDPers during the COVID protests who stopped me in the street when I was covering a protest, and they were there because a lot of the, now I spent the first 20 minutes of the show telling you granola is bad for you, and it is. But when I describe someone as granola, I mean like earthy, free, crunchy moms who had
Hippie,
voted,
yeah.
who had voted. And now the crunchy moms are all conservatives. Like we're trying to live off the land and we're trying to find some raw milk. But those people were traditionally in the NDP Green Party realm. And during COVID, they care about what they were putting into their bodies. They hated big pharma, but they had been NDPers. And one of them said to me, Sheila, I hated your guts. I hated you because you were so mean to Rachel Notley. And you're the only one, you, Rebel News, you guys are the only ones who are trying to help us. And you don't care if we voted NDP before you help us. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how it should be. Because your human rights are not contingent on how you vote, how I feel about your politics. That's not how it works. It is so for so many of the left, but I met a lot of people who were lost NDPers, who COVID woke them up to the problems with their own movement. I don't know about you, Tamara, but you probably have similar experiences.
I would say exactly the same, but especially during the COVID vaccine mandates era, and especially as I covered people who had been injured. And they were saying, the government promised me that they'd have my back. I've always been a fervent Liberal supporter or NDP, not so much NDP, but a lot of Liberal supporters. Who were like, I would have never imagined that the government would turn on me like this. And now I'm left debilitated. And it's sadly not a lot of conservative voices who have stood up for them. So a lot of them actually feel politically homeless, I find. But definitely I saw a lot of that when I was heavily reporting on the COVID vaccines and the fallout of those mandates, for sure.
And I think too, it's incumbent on us to show these people some grace. We can't go around evangelizing the good word of conservatism, which I think we do. I try to tell people the benefits of personal responsibility, smaller government, and freedom and liberty and determining your own way in the world. We can't go around telling people about things. And then when we get some takers on the ideas, applying a retroactive litmus test to their past policies. If we get people who are waking up to the idea, we have to say, get on over here, baby conservative. We can't say, oh, you voted for Rachel Notley. You don't belong here. No, those are the people we need to reach. I don't want to talk to just conservatives. I mean, yes, I do, but I want to reach people who have never actually thought about how they cast their vote before and what that means in practice in their own lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to get yourself out of that echo chamber, right? The people who sit at home and they watch the CBC and they watch the mainstream media and they only talk to their little social bubbles because they've chosen them specifically based on, voting alliance. That is very dangerous. And so I would say a lot of people, I mean, look at even back to the COVID protests. I mean, those protests, as you mentioned, Sheila, went across party lines and people were coming together and they're just saying, like, we're done with the way that the government in its totality is acting. We don't even have opposition. And so it shows the importance of breaking out of those echo chambers and the shoehorning of party lines, but also that how important it is to have a real backboned spine opposition party, because then the government can't get away with these actions and measures as easily.
Yeah. What a bizarre cross section of humanity those COVID protests were.
But it's such great fun, great fun.
Yeah. You just saw the best of humanity. You got the small business owners, blue collar conservatives. You had the white collar conservatives, the social conservatives, and then the crunchy people came. And it was, somebody should have jumped in front of that parade and led it. But it's Paul Newman gives us 279. It says, will Rebel be attending the CAL rally on the 26th in Calgary? You're talking about the APP indoor independence rally? Yeah, definitely. We wouldn't miss it for the world. I think there'll be a few of us there. JP Alberta First gives us $10. The behavior you were speaking of from the left is the exact reason we need independence, so we can set a constitution that enshrines our rights and not just have them as a kind of good idea. Yeah. Yeah, well, we're trying here in Alberta already. Like we're trying to enshrine property rights and firearms rights, and we to make this a more free place and not rely on the federal government to protect our God-given rights. Because, well, as we were talking about COVID, as we've seen, they don't. So, I think that's it. Do we want to just quickly do the cringe and then we'll wrap her up?
Yes, our daily dose of cringe comes from the state-funded comedians at 22 minutes
Here we
who
go.
take a hit at Canada's oil. I think that's the.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, this is the Polyev one.
Okay, that's okay.
They take a hit at Polyev instead.
Yeah, they're apparently the CBC seems to be on Maduro's side. If I understand correctly, we'll figure this out.
Typical.
Domestically, our leaders had a mixed response, with Pierre Poilievre congratulating the president on X. Careful, Pierre, it's the winter. Your tongue could get stuck to Trump's boot.
Meanwhile, the Carney government says it is monitoring developments, so watching CNN like the rest of us. But I get why the Prime Minister would be cautious, considering all the oil and imaginary fentanyl we have. He's one bushy mustache from being next. Let's just hope Trump doesn't see this.
And we won't stop at Venezuela. I'm looking at you, Canada. You wouldn't give me a pipeline, and now oil prices will fall like never before. I mean, drugs. As you know, the Canadian border is where all the Mexican drugs come from. From Tijuana to Moncton to Kentucky, it's the fastest way to get drugs. And what a surprise, they also have crude oil in Canada. And if Mark Carney doesn't stop the flow of Mexican drugs into the United States, we are going to regime change him and take out Governor Carney and Danielle Smith and install Prime Minister Gretzky. And, well, Danielle Smith, she's on my side. She's incredible. Canada, you're on notice. I know you are harboring Venezuelans on the Blue Jays. So until then, viva la vida, because I'm living la vida loca. I really am.
Also, nobody watches CNN. Also, nobody watches CBC. I love how they said our non-existent fentanyl. That's outrageous to any family that has been hit by fentanyl. We know there's a fentanyl problem here. There are super labs in BC being busted just about every week. Those are components that are coming from South America, and they're being synthesized here, and they're being sold back into the United States and onto Canadian streets. Canadians are dying, 50,000 plus. Good families have had to deal with this, and we got these idiots at the CBC saying our non-existent fentanyl. Tell that to a family that had somebody die of fentanyl. Tell it to them. See who's laughing.
Can you tell it to our fentanyl czar, who in October admitted that but also he admitted that the problem is a lot bigger than he initially anticipated after being out of the field for roughly 10 years. So yeah, if there's no fentanyl problem, maybe you should tell that to Kevin Boissonneau, who's supposed to be our fentanyl czar, who point blank said at a conference, I think it was October or maybe it was November, that the problem is bigger than he ever imagined. So yeah, once again, CBC 22 minutes, just they obviously need a little fact check on what's really happening in global and national affairs.
Like, I don't want a police comedy, but that wasn't comedy. Like, it wasn't funny. It's just a Trump impersonation. And like, if you're gonna, like, don't pick on the thing. Don't pretend that this problem of fentanyl is non-existent. People are dying. A city's worth of Canadians have died because of this. Parents are stolen from their children. Children stolen from their parents because of this pernicious poison that is plaguing our streets. And we're pretending it doesn't exist to own Trump. Thanks. Great work, CBC. That's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
Slow clap for them. Slow clap. I
think that's
Daily Dose of Cringe brought to you by your tax dollars hard at work.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we're about 10 minutes past the hour. So
Yep.
we will wrap things up here. Thanks everybody at home for joining us, for supporting us. Thanks to all of our super chatters. Without your support, obviously, we wouldn't be here. So heading into 2026, we are ever and forever grateful for all of that. Thanks to everybody behind the scenes who make sure that you can find us here on the stream. Thanks, Sheila, for being our Rebel live stream regular correspondent who keeps the show afloat and keeps the motors running. And we will see you back same time and place tomorrow from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern for the panel show of this segment. And with that, thanks everyone once again, and stay safe, stay sane, and question everything.
He's a rare bird, President Trump, to say the least. So we're all going to stand behind the Prime Minister, work with him, and it's the best interest of the American people that I talk to frequently, daily actually, that you can't unscramble an egg. You got to make the omelet larger. Everyone benefits, and they're feeling the crunch down in the U.S. Personally, I look forward to the midterms. So let's see how we make out. But I have all the confidence. With all the premiers and the federal government trying to get the best deal we possibly can. And that is why we have to move quicker, faster, immediate. That's why we have to diversify trade around the world, find new trading partners. And that's exactly what the Prime Minister is doing. He's flying all over the world, building relationships and contacts. Because, again, Canada is an amazing country. Ontario is an economic powerhouse around the world.